Hey, welcome back to the Cooling Solution Show, family, right here, Sirius XM channel 154. A few years ago, my wife and I took a cruise that I really enjoyed. We went to a bunch of different Caribbean countries, Curacao, Aruba, different places. And I think for me, I think it was the first cruise. And I didn't have a feel for what a cruise would be like. You watch different things. Date myself, grew up on a love boat, watching the love boat stuff like that. But I had never been on a cruise ship before, so you get to New York, you're bustling in, getting in line, you're waiting in this holding area with limited food and drink, and all this anticipation, right? And then you finally get on the ship, and to me, it was like, wow, this thing is huge, walking around, seeing all these restaurants and shops. And I mean, when you really think about it, the average cruise ship holds about 3,000 people. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. 3,000 people, plus the restaurants, the stores, casinos, and sometimes theaters. Outside, there was a racetrack. I even got up there. There was a basketball court up there shooting hoops. It just felt strange, like out at sea, floating, shooting hoops, looking to the left and right and seeing nothing but water, right? And so I enjoyed it. Um, but it made me just think about how massive of a machine that is that we're depending on. And dig this, there are even some ships. One of the largest ships is on Caribbean's Oasis class, holds up to 6,988 passengers, in addition to the 2,300 crew members. Just let that sink in for a second. That is over 9,000 people on the ship. And it says it's equipped with four bow thrusters, or bow thrusters, excuse me, with 7,500 horsepower each. The ship can reach a cruising speed up to 22 knots. Now, what it made me think about, though, is with all that massive equipment, structure, and whatnot, the whole thing is guided by a rudder. Just think about that. That whole massive ship, nearly over 9,000 people on the ship. Again, restaurants, track, theaters, and whatnot. But it only gets to its destination if the rudder does its job. And the rudder, we can't even see most of the time, right? You can't see that from standing ashore or on the ship. It's down below the ship at the bottom. And even with the four bows with the 7,500 horsepower each, right? So what is that collectively? 30,000 horsepower and whatnot. It does not get to where it needs to get to unless the rudder is controlled appropriately. So just think about what goes into that process. You have the captain and the part of the crew that is up in that part of the ship with him, planning how the rudder will be utilized, right? They have to chart the course. They have to think about the things they may have to go around through to get to that destination, because rarely is a course a singular linear direction. They got to navigate through some things, around things, so on and so forth. And you also think about, I bet 2,300 people, the whole crew, does not have access to controlling the rudder. It's probably less than 2% of those people. I mean, just think about that. Even 1% would be 23 people out of the 2,300 crew members have access to the rudder. Just think about that for a second. 1% will be 23 people. I bet 23 people don't have access to controlling the rudder, the direction. And so it made me think about the rudder of our lives and our careers. The same is true. Look at our massive bodies physically, look at our massive bodies of work and all those things. But at the end of the day, we have a rudder. It starts with how we think about things. That's our rudder. How do we think about things? How do we plan our destinations and then plan the course to get to those destinations, and then take out from port and go to sea and head towards those destinations, etc. And when I think about the fact, again, that 2,300 crew members are on the ship, but it's probably less than 1%, to have access to the rudder, it should make us think about who has access to our rudder, who has true access to our rudder, to what guides our actions, right? So to our innermost thoughts and what guides our actions. I'm not going to give you a ton of answers today. I just want to leave you with the question. How are you controlling your rudder, family? How do you plan? And how do you use planning wisely? Who has access? Seriously, give some thought to who and what things have access to your innermost thoughts that then take into plans, actions, etc. And how do you purposely gather some of the expertise and such, just like the crew members did, in order to properly use that rudder? Just think about that. Out of the 2,300, maybe 23 or less have access to that rudder. Think about the expertise they had to gain, the experiences they need to go through, etc. How are you doing the same thing to make sure you properly use your rudder? Just let that sit in and give some thought to those questions. It's less about the answers at this point. It's more about asking yourself the question of, how am I using, safeguarding, protecting, and directing my rudder?